of the potential of warpage of this axle housing. Marketplace struck again. What makes this so useful and effective. This week is going to be a little bit of an unplanned episode. So as you guys know, we've been continuing to work and push forward on our QA1 triangulated 4-link for the 55 truck. It's actually sitting outside right now with the C-notch all painted up. While we were welding up all the brackets onto the axle housing, we were both, well, Dad was especially worried. I didn't think about it a little bit till after the fact of the potential of warpage of this axle housing. So Dad knew it and tried his best to go kind of spread the heat out, go back and forth, let stuff cool down, kind of do it that way to make sure, to try and minimize it as much as we could. But it still ended up warping it. So we put some straight edges on this thing, did some measuring, and we found that we definitely have it warped. And if you go here and you just try and turn this with your hand, it's pretty tight. It's not locked up by any means, but it's tighter than it should be. Now this is just literally an old stock Ford truck 9-inch housing, so it more than likely had some bow to it. We've never checked it, and it was never checked before we did anything to it in the original build or up to this point. So there's a chance that there's some of that already in it, and then when we put the brackets in, it just kind of made it worse. So this week we are going to get into it. We're going to set up and build a fixture to actually straighten this. We did this one time already, a long time before shift points ever existed. Dad did this same thing with the Dana 60 that's in the 55 because it was also had a bow in it too and was causing some drag. So of course we need to maximize as much as we can to try and get this truck to go as fast as we can. So we need to make sure everything's freed up. Also, we don't want to, lock up bearings or have anything crazy happen on the drag strip or on the road. So that's why it's really important to get this fixtured up. There is a little bit of a bonus reason for us to take this thing apart. We were more than likely going to have to pull the axle housing, or pull the axles out of it, because we're going to be running a little different wheel on the back, especially at the drag strip. You guys know we've been running this salt flat American racing wheel all the way around this truck since we did the original build. So the plan is we'll have these wheels still on it during the drive-in road portion of any of our drag and drive events, at least at this point. That's the plan. This is a 8.5-inch wheel, 17 inches in diameter, and like I said, 8.5 inches, and this thing has like a 4 1/4 back spacing or something like that. But Marketplace struck again and came up with this set of original center lines. Tire that's on it's a Mickey Thompson drag tire. It's basically brand new, but it is like 8 years old, so we don't trust them. So we've got a set of Hoosiers. It's like a drag radial tire that we're going to put on this truck. We're going to mount those up to these center lines at the racetrack. So when this thing's going down the track, we'll be running these center lines on it. So that means each day during Six Smokies, we'll jack which we'll have to do this anyway. One of the things about Six Smokies, if you don't run a specific drag racing tire, you have to run dead last. After everybody else is run, you have to run. So it's good, and running the drag radial, in theory, should make us faster, which is a good thing. That's what we're always trying to do. But this cool look on this center line is, it has really changed the attitude of the truck. If you guys have been following us on social media, you probably already saw this, but we just love how these look. Dad had a set of these center lines on his 76 Ford truck when he was like 20 years old, 18, 20 years old. So he's always had the center lines on a bunch of different stuff. You've seen the center lines on his Nova. That's part of our Jump a Coke bottle sticker that we have in our online store. So center lines are just kind of a part of what we do, and this wheel being on the truck is going to be super cool. We did get a set of skinnies to go on the front. I don't think we'll probably take the time to swap those each day, but we'll at least have this wheel on the back at this point. Now, the reason I say we're going to have to pull the axles and change the lug stud is because these centerline wheels run one of these shouldered shank style lug nuts. So we had to order a set of these for those as well. So we have some 3-inch long lug studs that we're going to run so that we can run these. We'll take the plastic caps off of them because there is a rule in drag racing that your lug stud should extend out of the lug nut itself, and I think it's a safety thing. And it's also gives everybody a good indicator. A really quick eye glance, you can look down and see if you have anything that's loose, if there's a lug stud that's recessed into the lug stud or into the lug nut itself. It's a really quick eye check, but it is a safety thing, and it is written in the rules that you need to have a lug stud that extends out of these. Like I said, this plastic cap comes off, and they are open. They are open all the way through, so you can see that right there. We're able to take, this is our bracket system that came with our disc brake conversion kit for this truck. So you can see we can take this off and slide the axle out, but we don't have to take this whole caliper assembly off because of how these bolts are. So that's really nice. All we'll have to do is take these 4 nuts off. That'll set this bracket off, and we can remove the whole axle and get it out of there. Perfect. So now we're down to center section and axle housing itself. I guess I should go into a little more detail on that. So you can see the brackets that we added. These are for the lower trailing arm mounts. These are for the shock mounts, and those are for the upper trailing arm mounts. And we have those on each side of this. So you can see there's a substantial amount of welding that was done, solid welded on each one of those brackets on the outside, plus some stitch welds on the inside. That heat in there expanded, and then once it cools, it contracts more than it originally was. So between all of this, it's ended up warping everything because of the heat. It appears that basically this one and this one pretty much balanced itself out on this way, but it definitely has some, because of this guy, some warpage this direction, and we'll get some actual measurements and show you here in a little while. Yeah, so the axle housing has a bow like this, and so that's why, because this heated, it expanded, and then when it cooled, it contracted, and actually contracted a little more than its original way. That's just what happens with heat like that, and so that's what's caused this to have that bow in it. And like I said, we'll get you some actual measurements here in a little while. A couple of safety nuts back on it while we did this. If only we had smell-o-vision. You guys could smell some gear oil. So this really worked out even better than we expected it going like this. So if you remember earlier in this process, we accidentally cut through this axle housing with a torch whenever we were cutting the spring hangers off of this thing. We had a little oopsie with the rear end out here. Got a little bit through the housing. You can see that piece of shrapnel's there, and I'd already cleaned it out, and I wish I had left some of it, but the axle tube was full of things like that right there. Just shrapnel. Big chunks of it. Way more than we ever would have thought or expected to be in it, to be honest, even though we should have thought about it. But you can see this is a rag that I pushed through here to kind of clean it out some. But you can just see like there's a lot of metal and shrapnel in this, and that's not even all of it. I got a lot of this stuff like that right there out of it. So it really worked out extremely well for us to take this thing apart, and it's good we didn't run it because there's a decent chance that some of that would have got into the case at some point. Still a decent chance something gets in there and causes some mayhem. So it's worked out really good that we ended up taking this thing apart. Let me show you the piece that Dad built for the Dana 60 that we're going to be able to utilize. All right, so these aluminum bushings here would set into the bearing caps of the center section of the Dana. Of course, the 9-inch is different than the Dana, but the inspection cover would come off. This would go right into those bearing caps, and then this hardened steel rod can be pushed through them, and that will keep that rod exactly in the center of the axle housing. So then there's also basically an indicator here on the end, this pin that he's put into the end of this, and that lets us check the concentric 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 we're so good at this. With those bearings being in the case and that steel rod running through this tube, this lets us use that indicator to make sure that this axle flange here is going to be exactly square all the way down through there, and basically making sure that our axle is, the axle housing, this tube, is as straight as possible. Now this is for the 60. We can use this same rod. This actually has a set of bearings that lets this move in and out, but we don't want to take those out of these, so we're just going to make some new aluminum bushings here that are going to set into the carrier here. So those will set right in here, and then we'll make those, machine that to exactly the 999 thousandths that this rod is, so that those will just slide right in. And we can use the same rod, the same indicator and everything, just new bushings, and we'll be able to do the same thing. We can slide those into the axle, into the carrier, slide this into the axle housing, and check and make sure that this is square out here on the end. And we do that on each side, and then we have a perfectly straight axle housing. Here's the first roughed in aluminum bushing. We're working on the second one now. While Dad is working on getting that set up, and I'll talk you through what his plan is there. So we'll be pulling the lug studs out of the axles on this thing and replacing them with a set of screw-in. These are strange axles, so we're going to put a set of screw-in strange lug studs. These are half 20s. I'm just going to start all of these and then run them down until there's a few threads left exposed, and then add some of our high-strength Permatex thread locker on to them, so that we don't have any chance of these backing out or doing anything crazy. Alright, so Dad set these bushings that we cut out with the hole saw here into the mill. We just clean them up, and what he's doing here is using that pin. It's a 1/4 inch pin, that's a 1/4 inch hole, and he's using that to locate the center of that hole right there, which he's done. Now he's going to drill it out to a larger diameter so that we can run a bolt through it, clamp it up, so that we can then put it in the lathe and turn it down the diameter that we need to. Alright, after getting some stuff clamped in here, getting everything actually trued up so you can see one of our races, Dad put that and put it into our mini 3-jaw chuck that goes here in the tailstock, and he's got that in there. That got that piece square, so that now whenever we cut this, and that is driven up on a 1/2 inch pin, now he's going to cut this, that will be truly concentric with that hole that's in the center of this piece. Alright, we took some time, really snuck up on that measurement. We wanted to make sure that we didn't undercut it. It's hitting that bearing. So you're gonna have to take it. There's 3 and 3, 4 and 4. Yeah, they're where they need to be. What we're doing, he always marks these cases when he takes them out, so the races go back exactly, or the retainers and everything go back exactly the same place. So you can see the 3 dots and the 3 dots. We're just verifying that those were where they needed to be. So we knew this was measured at 3 inch 62 thousandths. We took it out at 3 inch 68 thousandths, 67 thousandths. But we knew we could get it back in here pretty easily and square it back up, which is what we're going to do right now. Take that other 6 thousandths or whatever it is off. We'll measure it again, make sure we got it good, and then that should be good for this one. There we go. So you can see our bushings are now in place, and this hardened rod fits very snugly inside this. So now we can do a little cleanup and get this case into the housing, and we can do our first check. We got the rod put in here, and you can see what we're checking here. You can see the gap that the pin has to the axle housing right there, and if we rotate it around, that same pin is actually touching right down here. Right at the bottom is where it touches. So that means it's like this, So we're gonna have to heat down here on the bottom of the axle housing and then cool it rapidly and let it draw back so that we can get this pin to where it doesn't touch in either direction, or not touch down here at the bottom anymore, and equal out this gap. So that's what that's doing, just giving us a very good visual indicator of the concentricity, the concentricity, we went back into this word again, telling us that with those, with that rod running through the carrier, what this housing is in relation to in all these different directions in this whole 360 degrees here, the different difference that we have here. So like I said, it's touching there, big gap here, so it needs to get drawn down this way and see if we can equal out that gap. Talk to the camera. Hey! Riley's here today.
But hey, Richard Hammond crashed his car.
Richard Hammond crashed his car. That's right. You told the whole world. Now they know. You have to take. Can you say hey to Harvey and Linda?
Hey Harvey, hey Linda.
They said they wanted more Riley, so there you go. All right, so we've got that narrowed in. Right there where that point is the point where it is touching. If you rotate that around, there's a big gap over here, and so that indicates exactly where we need to heat this, which is about right there here on the housing. And it lines up because we mentioned it earlier, these two kind of balanced each other out, pulled in one direction, then draw the other, then same thing here, but they're on the top and the bottom. Where this shock mount was on its own. So there was a lot of heat that was applied here, and that shrunk and drawed that back in this direction like that. And so that's why we're going to take the torch here, go about right there, heat it up, and let that draw back. I guess I should have got a cold rag, shouldn't I? So you can see that gap there on that pin has gotten a lot bigger because that metal here is expanding with the heat. And that cold rag just quenches that, makes it cool really fast. It's definitely coming back some. I think it's still out, but so we went through a cycle of a bunch of cold rags there on that spot, and you can see it's not dragging anymore. It's not touching, so it's not. We don't have it completely straight yet, but we've definitely helped it some.
We've gained a little.
We gained a little, and we need to kind of concentrate that in maybe and get it to heat up a little bit more. So that's what this process is, a lot of back and forth on this until we get it straight. So we're heating it back here on this side of the shock bracket, and you think about it, that shock bracket's got some structure built into it there, so it's kind of fighting us too. So we're going to go on this side of it, heat it there, and we should get a lot more action, but we have taken some of it out with one more round of heating it with the torch there. You can see that gap has gotten a little smaller. We still got more to take out. So we're gonna go again right to the bottom on that side of the shock bracket. Try again. Better than it was.
What's it here?
Yes, in here. Here, just put it back in there. So you can see the gain that we've made there. You can see the gain that we've made. It's getting a lot closer. Now it's just touching a little bit down here, just barely. There's actually just a little gap there now. And there's the gap up here to this side. And we've just slowly been kind of working different spots. We've been trying to work different spots. You can see where we've cooled it in various, or heated it and cooled it in various spots down through here. Just kind of slowly trying to work our way out to get as best we can so we don't cause a bunch of, make it worse somehow, but we're just working our way across there. So we were able to get that side pretty close. We're gonna just let that fully cool down and see kind of where it ends up landing. So we went ahead and run the rod through the other axle tube to check it out. It ain't much prettier. This is about the worst axle housing we've ever seen, that we've ever done this with. But you can see what a massive gap we have here. I mean, look at that, for reference, the whole end of my finger is every bit of it's a heavy 1/4 of an inch. And if we rotate this around, our indicator right there is actually touching. So that indicator gives us a good starting point. This one is more on the front side of the axle versus kind of being underneath like over there. So we're gonna work in this area, in this line here, to work on heating it to get it pulled back this direction. So same deal on this side, just working our way across in a few different spots, figuring out which one's gonna do us the most good. I'm gonna guess probably somewhere like right there would be a pretty good spot to try, or even right there maybe. Yeah, come right there first and see if we can get a big, yeah, exactly, a big run on it there. But you can see this is simple. It's a really simple deal setup, but it's very effective. It gives you a very good indicator on especially where on the axle tube, the axle housing 360 degrees, where you really need to focus to get it straightened up, and you can slowly work your way in different directions. If this thing was out in multiple directions, you could kind of split the difference. So if it was touching here and here, you would know you could kind of come on this plane here, and that would let you take it in that direction, kind of fixing 2 points of contact at the same time. So that's what makes this so useful and effective, is doing it this way. This first one on this was extremely successful. Check that out. Check that gap out. That's there now. That was touching right there. So we got a big hit out of it just on that first heat cycle. We've still got a long ways to go though. It took a handful of times across the tube in different spots here, but we finally got it where we want it. You can see here, if we take this and spin it around, it does not touch anywhere, or there's just a little bit of slack in this. So because of these don't have those like linear bearings like the Dana 60 ones over there that we have, if you kind of take that slack up all the way around, it will just touch the axle tube all the way around here. So we're where we want to be. That is the same on both sides. So this thing is now, these axle flanges are exactly square with the carrier bearing, with the carrier bearings here. So that means these axles are running as straight as they can into the differential. This thing should be way more free when we get it put back together. I'm going to take it out here, scuff it, and repaint it, because I used our really nice Seymour paint and got this thing good before we checked it, because we were silly and didn't think to check it before. So we're going to take this thing apart, scuff it, paint it, and get it put back together, and see how it does whenever we go and spin our pinion. Alright, we got this thing back together now, and you can see how much easier it is to turn this now, which is very, very good. So we did get it straightened out, and we were really happy with it. So that is how we would go about straightening this axle housing. Is what we would do if it was anybody else's. So now we're gonna go ahead, get this thing put back together. This is just kind of a little extra feature here. We'll go ahead and get this thing back together, and we can continue working on getting our 4-link here into the 55 truck. Make sure you tune in next week. You'll see us get this thing all put back together and hopefully on the ground in the next video. So we're really looking forward to that. We're just keep working. We're just gonna keep getting going on this thing. We're gonna get it ready for 6 Smokies, and we're gonna do everything we can to make it as bulletproof as possible for that event. So make sure you hit subscribe, follow along. Make sure you do that so that you don't miss out on the daily videos that we're gonna do throughout that event here coming up in October. And you don't wanna miss testing this thing. So when we get it back on the ground, we'll get it tested before we go on that event, hopefully, if everything works like it's supposed to. So follow on Facebook and Instagram, subscribe, do all the things. You know what you need to do. You've watched enough YouTube videos, and we will see you next week.